Scano. Good evening. Welcome. My name is Jody Harbour, and I'm a co-founder of Grandmother's Voice. It's an honor to be here with you, each of you tonight, gathered in ceremony, lifted by the heartbeat of Mother Earth, and held in the sacred presence of the ancestors. Each week, we gather in this circle with grandmothers and grandfathers from across the 7 continents, elders whose lives are rooted in sacred knowledge, ancestral memory, and a deep commitment to healing, truth, and spirit. Their voices carry the wisdom we need to hear in these times. Wisdom born not of theory, but of lived experience, of ceremony, of connection to the land and spirit. This is not just a series, it's a remembering. It's a weaving of story and spirit that calls us back to who we are and to who we are becoming. Now is the time. Now is the time to gather, to listen, to honor the voices of the elders who have carried these teachings through generations. Tonight, we're honored to welcome our guests you see here on the screen. Susan?
Okay, thank you. Aloha, everyone. Thank you, Jody. I just want to take a minute to thank Jody for all the hard work that she does. And for Matt, he does all those beautiful posters with the bios and the photos. And, we're really blessed to have them to put this all together on their platform. And I had felt very prompted by Spirit to invite Jody to be the one to do that for this program. And it's only going to be 2 weeks. That's all, 52 weeks, 1 whole year. And I've got to really give her a lot of credit. She's worked so hard. They all have. And so I thank that team. I want to also add one more thing before we go ahead and turn it over. And that is that there's no money involved in any of this project. We don't pay Jody. We don't ask any payment for anybody coming on board because this far transcends the monetary aspect of what it is that we're doing. It has no part at all in anything that we are. And I'm really grateful for that. The purpose for this, and I just want to make sure I really make this clear before we begin, is that this is an opportunity for us to do 2 things. Number 1, to capture the words, the teachings, the love, the aloha, the mana, the spirit of our speakers. They are the reason why we are here tonight, because each of them is the container of the wonderful wisdom of their own life experiences, as well as their own teachers and their own mentors. I'm not going to say too much about their stories and who they are, because their bios tell you a bit. But I'm also going to ask that if you get an opportunity, look up more information on them, because they are astoundingly amazing in the work that they've been doing in the world for all of us. I have the blessing of being able to know them personally. They've been here in my home at Eagle's Nest. I love them. And the second part to that is that as we capture the words that they're doing, we're also becoming part of their teachings. Whenever it's like drinking water, you take a sip of the water and the water becomes you. It's there in your cells, it's there wherever we walk. We walk that water. Look, there goes Kathleen. Thank you for that. Beautiful visual. And that's how it'll be. So as you feast tonight on the things that they're saying, remember that they do become part of you. One of my grandmothers, Priscilla V. Hill, who is from the Pueblo in New Mexico, told me about the spirit plate. That in their way, when you make your spirit plate of the meal that you're eating, you put it on the windowsill on the outside. And then that way, the spirits, the ancestors can come and they just sniff it. They don't eat it because they don't have a body anymore, but they sniff it. And they're so grateful because they know by the very fact you put it there that you have called them and invited them to join you in dinner. So when I do my spirit plate here, and anybody that's eaten here will tell you, I have a little bowl that I put out on my railing on the deck. I have 8 cats. And those cats will come and sniff that bowl, and they'll look in there to see what's in there. And not one of them has ever tried to eat a bite because special. And that's how it is with Dan and Kathleen. They are special, they are sacred. What they carry within themselves is knowledge beyond anything you can read in a book or hear in a story. It's all part of who they have become. And they will share that with us. And then we take that outward and we affect all those that we come in contact with, because now we have become the message as well. And so with that, I'm going to step back out of the way. Jody and I are we'll still be in the room, but we'll be holding the container for Kathleen and Dan. Ahomi Takiasi, my family. Kathleen?
Hello, everyone. I'd love to start with an opening. And if you could just find your heartbeat, just breathe and relax and arrive in this moment. Feet on the ground if you can. And just find that rhythm of your heartbeat that connects you to the world, to the universe. And I want you to think of water. And I want us to acknowledge the presence of water in this moment, in our lives, in our bodies, in our rivers, in the tears that rise. And may we come together today blessed by water, acknowledging that we are the stewards of water and that water is life. And so we are the stewards of life. And taking really nice deep breaths. Remembering the remembrance of water and the memories that water carries through our bodies, through our drinks, through all of the water in the world, the sacred wells, our ancestors, all the remembrance is with us in this moment. And as you drink water, as you bathe in water, as you feel the water inside your mouth, be grateful that we can honor water in this moment and carry that with you. Ancient, alive, and always listening. We carry it within us, outside of us. We carry life together. It's my honor to be here and to open this circle with all of you today.
Oh, honored to be here too.
So I'd like to bring this water up for us right now, which contains water from 52 sacred sites all around the world at least. There's been more water added to that. And also St. Bridget's Well, which I'll talk about in a little minute or two. So I was asked, I'm so happy to be here by Jody and Susan, and just really appreciate just getting to know Jody, but the deep connection that I have with Susan is one of the greatest joys of my life, along with this man sitting next to me, Dan. And this, if you noticed, I was shaking this rattle. It's one of the many gifts that I have received from Dan. And it's a Celtic DNA rattle. And it is sacred in many ways, and I've brought it back and forth with me wherever I go. My brief story is that I was initiated by the Maori peoples of New Zealand, and I was asked to come to be in the initiation, to be a water ceremonialist with 12 others around the country. And at first I wasn't sure, but I'd always been in touch with that part of me, but not through the New Zealand ways. So I felt it was a great honor. And I went, and I was taught that water is life, but it's also a consciousness, it's a being, it's alive. And that type of honoring is different. It's really deepening into what is the spirit of all the creatures around us, including the water, the trees. There's an essence that's alive in them, just like it is alive in us. And the honoring is the same way. The listening is the same way. The respect is the same way. And so I carry that as an honor. I don't think of guiding ceremonies as a platform or, some type of an act or performance. For me, it's an honor to be able to just open everything up with the reverence of water is what I honor. Earth is what I honor. The earth in all of us is what I honor. And I think connecting hearts to heart in this way is like a conduit for peace and love and all the things that we need in the world right now. When I was initiated, they gave me the name of Essence of the Forest. And at that time, I did not know, but I was soon to become a team member of Tree Sisters, which is an organization that planted trees in the tropics. Right now, over 40 million have been planted, and it's the communities that they have given back to. But as they gave me that title, that name, and the moment that I was asked to come join Tree Sisters, I knew that was my calling. It was my destiny. And the roots of the trees are also connecting to the water system. And all of the roots are connected to each other all across the planet. The forest floor is an ecosystem like we should be, a community, so surviving together, supporting each other. That not that we should be, but that we should be more aware of, because we are that kind of ecosystem. And so this with great humility that I approach this gathering today. When I was first initiated, like I said, there was 12 of us who were initiated, 12 women and 9 men. And we were in the center circle, and 9 men stood outside as the protectors of what we were doing. And it was a different way of looking at things, but it was a really beautiful way. And, I could go deep into that, but that's, if you can imagine what that was like. And we spent a lot of time together. We learned a lot of things. And one of the things that we were working towards was to do a simultaneous global world water blessing in 2015. And so we were all sent back home to where I live, is just outside Chicago. We were sent back home to create the water blessing that would connect with this worldwide web of water blessings. And so I was right next to the Fox River, and I'm close to Lake Michigan. And I was thinking, where would this be? Where would this be? And I spoke to someone, they said, I know a man named Dan, and he runs a fire at Northeastern University. And he's been holding the Sacred Peace Fire there for almost 30 years. And they've had indigenous tribes and chiefs and everyone coming there and celebrating with him in this fire, in a sacred fire. And I said, that sounds like the perfect place. I wonder, is it near water? And yes. It's right right connected with the Chicago River, which runs into Lake Michigan. And it's a walk that we could do. So we could do the fire, and then we could go ahead and do that. So this is how I met this wonderful man. And we connected. We did the ceremony. It was well attended. We connected with others around the world that were doing the same thing. It was so moving. Like my life changed in that moment. And I think most of the people who were there, their lives changed as well. And we're all still connected in many ways. After that ceremony, I said, I'm going to Ireland to Dan. And he said, I know the woman who takes care of, she's the carekeeper of St. Bridget's Well in Kildare, Ireland. Now, my whole family's from Ireland, including my older brothers and sisters. I'm really the first American. And I said, I had to go to Bridget's Well. My mother's name was Bridget. My daughter's name was Bridget. My mom named my middle name Brigidina, and that's what I use as my art name since second grade. It was always my artistic name. So I said, I'm definitely going there. And I said, I'm looking for a drum and the right drum to bring with me. And he had just made one, and maybe he'll tell you a little bit more about that. And he gifted that to me. And I just, what I want to say about all of that is that my roots connected with New Zealand from ancestors. It went way back into my lineage that I didn't even know or understand. But the people of New Zealand and the people of Ireland honor the land and the water very much the same way. It's the spirit. It's a consciousness. It's an aliveness. And Eru, which is my daughter's name almost, her name is Erin, but Eru is the goddess of land in Ireland. And because land wasn't a living being. And so she stood for that thousands of years ago in Ireland, and thousands of years ago in New Zealand, the same thing was happening. And it's all woven in the same way. So where I felt possibly disconnected from the New Zealand people, I wanted to learn more. I wanted to really honor what this gift was to me. I started finding how closely knit we all are. And then I started to realize that water is the conduit, and it always has been, flowing around our planet. Our continents used to be more connected, and the water was one body, and the earth is made of more water. I mean, mostly of water, and so are we. And so that is a conduit of love, of peace. And so when we speak to it like, Professor Inamoto, there's a response. The water is responding, whether it's good or bad, but it's responding to what we are bringing, how we are carrying, the messages, the gratitude that we are taking right now. And we had a beautiful fire ceremony, and I think I might close my space with this. We had a beautiful ceremony. It was Earth Day, I believe, and we had Grandmother Mary Lyons was there. There was 3 grandmothers there, and I said, let's think of something that we can bring together, something that's not necessarily from New Zealand, not necessarily from here or Ireland, but what is it that really was rising in me for this moment to bring unity, and the water would bring the unity. So I'm an artist, and I started using pigments, which are naturally driven from the earth. They're taken by hand from the earth, and so they speak. They're alive, and I love to work with them in my art. But I also added the peace fire coals, which I don't know if you'll actually be able to see them, but these are crushed peace fire coals from the peace fire coals that Dan gave me. And I used them, and I was asking the questions, what is the ceremony supposed to feel like? And what it told me, with probably about 120 people or something around the fire, was that we are going to use the water from the ceremony, from the river up the road, as a conduit with each of these pigments for all 7 continents. And to bring that into not just me doing it, but others in the circle, that we pass it around with the blessed water. Once we went down and we did the ceremony, we brought the water up, put it in the center, put a little bit of the color all around, and then gave each person a feather and asked them to put their intentions for love and peace into this piece. I don't have it with me, or I'd show you, but I'd be happy to show you it someday. And every single person, I don't even really know how long we took, but we just let it flow, however much time everybody needed, and each one just dipped in the fire and they closed their eyes, and in pure resonance and reverence, they put their wish, their thoughts for peace and love and connectivity, and using water as a conduit and a connector. And that is what water always wants to do. It always wants to connect to the rest of the water, no matter where it goes. And just like the Chicago River connects into the lake, it's the natural way is to connect. And so anyway, I had my eyes closed at one point, and my friend was there, and he said he looked up and there were 6 hawks circling the fire. And there was a couple other things that happened, and Dan has a lot of fascinating stories. But I just wanted to share those things with you. I'm honored to be here. I'm honored to be here with Dan. I'm honored to be here with Susan and with Jody.
Yep. Thank you. So when this came up and Susan said, Dan, we're doing this series and we'd like, if you'd like to talk, and we've asked Catherine to speak about water, and we were hoping you could speak about fire. And as soon as she said that, I said, that is the perfect combination, because the fire keepers told me that water and fire are the same thing. I'm not sure if I understand that completely, but I believe them. My background is I'm from Chicago. I was not a good student. I ended up at Northeastern Illinois University as a student as my only option. I got a few degrees, and I ended up coming back there and working for 35 years. It's a school on the north side of Chicago. Kids come there and they go back home, and every single kid works, and many of them are the first in their family to respond. So I was teaching physical education and learning about team building and adventure. And we said, why don't we start sharing this with teachers? And we formed an organization called TEAM, Teachers of Experiential and Adventure Methodology. And our business plan was, let's have a conference, and if we make any money, we'll do it again. Well, that went on for 25 years. So our organization, the national, is called the Association for Experiential Ed. And they rotate the conference, and volunteer committees put it together for 18 months. And we got a call. We said, look, someone just messed us up. They promised to do the work and they didn't. And this was in the spring of 1994, around April. Do you think your group from Northeastern in Chicago could do it? And before I could even answer, I knew we had to. I just knew we couldn't say no. So our small group got together. We worked for 18 months. And up in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, the first renovation of the old Playboy Club, we said that's the space to go to. We had 1,500 people show up. Arun Gandhi, the grandson of Mahatma Gandhi, was our keynote speaker. And I had met these fire keepers up in northern Michigan from the Potawatomi Three Fire Society. And I thought, this is kind of neat. I brought them tobacco, and I said, I'm wondering, could you bring that fire if we get permission to our conference? Because it goes for 4 days. And they didn't say yes, they didn't say no. And later, I hope we can show you the picture of Nawatan, who was the ancient fire keeper of their fire, right? Well, what happened is Muktatha Bruce Hardwick and Mukwa O'Day, Dwayne Kennard, brought the fire to our conference where it burned for 4 days. What I didn't know was this was the first time their sacred fire had been brought out of the village to anyone outside their community. And what I learned 2 years later was this fire they brought had been burning for 900 years. After the fire was lit, here's what happened. We had a day of sunshine, We had 24 hours of rain. We had 24 hours of blizzard, and we had a day of sunshine to close the conference. At midnight, after his talk on Saturday evening, in the middle of a blizzard, we invited Arun Gandhi to come out to the fire with the small group of people. A man, he had work shoes on, like work boots, and they weren't proper with his suit. And we were looking, going, this is interesting. There was only 10 or 12 of us there. And all of a sudden we heard someone coming down the ramp through the crunching snow in a wheelchair. And there was a man named Paul Tucker from one of our suburbs. And we looked down and he had no shoes on. And another friend of ours from Arkansas, Sanford Tillett, who is a profound person, profound. When he speaks, everyone listens. He goes, stop. Look at this man's feet. He gave his shoes to Arun Gandhi to stand out here at the fire with us. That's how this started. Then I learned the facts about the 900 years the fire had never left the village. So that was in November of 95 in southern Wisconsin. In February, we were having our conferences and invited the firekeepers down, and that's how it got to our campus. We got permission, and it was anchored by trees that were struck by lightning from top to bottom. And one of the bosses said, how about here? And we said, perfect. So that's where we've had our fire since February of 96. We've had hundreds of fire ceremonies. We'd invited people from around the world, and they all seemed to show up. And eventually, when I got to meet Nawatin, the original firekeeper and their teacher, he said something very profound. He said, fire is the one element that no one will ever argue about because it keeps us alive, it keeps our families warm, it cooks our food, and it gives our community a place to gather. So we started gathering these, and this was one of the original fire coals. And at the closing ceremony in Lake Geneva, we had 4x4 pieces of cloth, 4 different colored ribbons for the 4 directions, and we collected sand and ashes from the fire, and about 150 people showed up at the closing. We put them in groups of 6. They made coal bundles. We told them the story. And the cool part is the 2 young people who led the ceremony were part of our committee. They were our students, Basha and Roman Imano. So we started our planning in April of 1995 at Northeastern. And in November of 95, they came into my office and said, Dan, we have our problem. I said, what's that? We just realized next November, when the conference is the only time we can have it because of scheduling, is the same time we planned our wedding. I said, well, that's not a problem. Have a great wedding. They said, no, we took care of it. We moved our wedding so we can help at the conference. So that's why, for me, this works when there's nothing involved but people's hearts that connect to each other and it feels to do right. So Basha and Roman led the closing ceremony for about 200 people making these fire coals. After that, we started making fire coals from our fire circle at school, and our students come from one of the most diverse schools in the Midwest, universities. We have over 100 different cultures. 88 of those cultures over time made coal bundles. They have made about 15,000 coal bundles, and they've gone all over the world. A friend helped with a little website that kind of keeps track of things, and that is, the website is NEIU peacefire.org. NEIU peacefire.org. We've had hundreds of fire ceremonies, and they said to us, people are going to come here to Northeastern to be part of this fire. And they've also gone out around the world. So Catherine's part of that. And when we met is when she said, I have to do this water ceremony. I said, well, you're welcome to come here. And the thing we were taught is, no matter what, everyone is always welcome at the fire without question. And we've never had one issue in 30 years. And we've had literally elders like a Nunuk from Greenland Jane Goodall from Greenland, a man named Ravi Shankar from India. On his 25th anniversary, he had a celebration where over 3 million people showed up, and there were 1,500 dignitaries on stage. The Lakota Sundance chief we work with, Chief Steve McCullough from the Salt Creek Sundance, who's been helping us for 20 years, he was in India and got invited to that ceremony, took the fire coals, and was asked to do a blessing for the whole crowd. How does that happen? We're not in control of it. We're just there as the recipients of, this is what we do and this is how we do it. And Catherine's been part of that. We've connected in very, very special ways. When she started talking about Ireland, that connection to the women of Ireland and the sacred water in the wells, it goes beyond speaking. So the fire in the water, and the term in Celtic is called Ishkafehala. Ishkafehala. The water runs underneath it. One of our firekeepers, Mukteth Bruce Hardwick, very spiritually connected man. He said to us, he goes, you understand, wherever this fire is, there's always water. Wherever this fire is, there's always water. And at one time, and then I'll turn it back here, we had all kinds of things happen at our gatherings. We also had a lot of blizzards. They seemed to like us. There was icing over the fire circle. We still lit the fire lit, and as it started to melt the ice, out of the center of the fire in the bottom, as the ice melted, it formed a stream about 4 inches wide, and it ran right out the lodge door of the fire circle. And Bruce just looked over and he said, Ishkafehala, I told you, it's here. So that fire burned on ice the entire weekend, and that river ran right out the door. And that goes back to Catherine's teaching about the Celtic people and their belief with the waters.
Just give everybody a moment to absorb all of that. It's just amazing. And the stories just keep coming, and you keep a journal. You've kept a journal for all these years. And there's many, many stories in there that connect hearts, like you said, and connect us to the planet, and it's amazing. And because of stories, I did feel that I'm, through this journey that I've been on also, that you want to share, you want to tell the stories, and so I did write a story, short, more of a poem, really, I guess you would call it, about a vision that I had once I was initiated. And it includes Bridget, and it includes New Zealand, and it tries to tell the story of the connection of what I've been feeling through this journey. E tua o te wai, spirit of sacred waters, Takini ina wai, guardians of the flowing life. Upon a ship I stood, its deck a living map, not of distant lands alone, but a path home to oneness, where every line and wave spoke of unity deep and true. From Aotearoa Wanua, where rivers carve the earth, to the rolling hills where Unity springs, that's Gaelic for water, I should have said that earlier, and Bridget's flame guards the sacred well. Waiora, living waters, mist upon the mountain's breath, rain that feeds the emerald fields, a conduit for peace beneath. The ship rocked gently, cradled by the sea, the heartbeat of the world beneath my feet. Water, the pathway, binder of souls, a sacred flow where all divides cease. We call upon Nguotupuna, ancestors of sea and soil, and Celtic clans who guard the springs, hear our song, O sacred toil. By the Wenua beneath our feet, by the waters that cleanse and heal, we bind the tides with earth's heartbeat. In this moment, all is real. Join our hands, join our breath. May land and water merge as one. A sacred dance of life and death, from Maori springs to Irish wells, from mountain streams to ocean swells. May Unice and Y flow pure and free. The song of earth, the pulse of sea. We honor St. Bridget's fire and the Y that brings rebirth. In land and water, heart and soul, we find our place, our sacred worth. And as the ship sails on, guided by the map beneath our feet, may water be the conduit of peace, uniting all in oneness deep.
Oh. And I can add a little bit to that about, so how does water and fire connect us? Muktatha, Bruce Hardwick, and Dwayne were invited to Russia to do a conference there, and with the Russian people who practice traditional ways. Bruce was on the ocean getting ready to light the fire, and he looked up, and a nun carrying a lit candle came walking towards him. And she said, "Are you the fire keeper?" He said, "I am." She goes, "I wonder if we could talk to each other. I'm from the Sisters of St. Bridget in Kildare. We relit our sacred fire a few years ago, and we are supposed to carry it around the world. I got permission to carry this flame on the plane and bring it here." And Bruce said, "Why don't you come over and we'll light this fire together?" So my wife and I wander. My wife is connected to Ireland physically, spiritually, and genetically. When she walks on Irish land, she stops and smells it, and she says, "I'm home." So we went up to the Sisters of Kildare. We went and met with them. In their room where this fire candle was burning 24/7, we looked on the wall, and here was the picture of Bruce and Dwayne, the fire keepers from Upper Michigan, on the wall in Kildare. So we got connected with them. It was very, very, very special. And then we said, "Okay, thank you." And we exchanged the candles and fires. It was time to leave. And I don't do a lot of research before I go. So we stopped in the gas station to get some gas before we left. I went into the bathroom and I tried to get out, and the door was locked. It wasn't jammed, it wouldn't move. And now it's locked, and I know there's people, and my wife, "Come on, what are you doing?" I said, "The door's locked, I can't get out." And a little voice came in, said, "You can't leave until you go visit the fire site of St. Bridget." And it was literally right across the street from the gas station. The door opened. I said, "Oh, we got to go." So we went to the church, and behind it is this sacred space. And what I learned was St. Bridget and the women had a fire that burned for 300 years. The special thing about the fire is it left no ash. And there was Bridget and 13 women that took care of this. So we went there, we met the caretaker. He had a New York Yankees hat on. And I said, "Could you come and help us?" And he left the fire coals in that ancient space where they were. So here we go from Russia to Ireland, to the United States, to the Potawatomi three fires. And that's what Dale said. Fire is the one element that connects us all without any discussion or problems. And he said that's something to always remember. So at our small school in Chicago, we have literally had people travel from all over the world, from as far away as Mongolia, you name it, Greenland, and they come and we do ceremony together and we celebrate. And it's a very, very special place. And if you go to our website, you can just read some of the things that have been done. And again, we know we're not in control of this at all. We just know that our job is to show up, welcome people to the circle, share the fire in a good way with good intentions, and we know the rest will be taken care of.
Wow. I want to just say one thing about the feminine and the feminine in all of us, right? So I'm not talking about women versus men, but the feminine qualities, the nurturing qualities, the loving qualities, the stop and settle down qualities, the caring qualities. This 1923, Ireland deemed St. Bridget's Day as a public holiday after all these hundreds of years and thousands of years, really, because Goddess Bridget also, the energy, some believe, is the same. It's the same, one and the same. And that was the only goddess that if people don't know this, it's the only goddess that the pagans would not relinquish, the Irish pagans would not relinquish what was Bridget. And so the Christianity deemed her a saint. And that is because there was such a strong hold, and because that fire just continued to burn, and that those women would not let it out. And after all these years, hundreds of years, in 1923, they deemed St. Bridget's Day in Ireland. And then the second thing that's also in parallel is in New Zealand last year. It's a 28-year-old woman who is the Queen of New Zealand, and she is the second queen only in all of its time. So it's just something to hold in our hearts. And a 28-year-old, her father was king, so she studied and she knows all of the Maori history and tradition, and she wants to uphold the connection to the earth and the knowing that it is a living being. And the same with St. Bridget's. Now they're celebrating in school what it means to keep the fire, to create poetry, being creative, and to be healing with the waters. And I have faith. I have faith because of those things.
Yeah. Our stories with the fire are endless. A lady helped us with the website just to put the information down, but I kind of keep a journal of everything that occurs, and it's maybe over 40 pages. And people come back to us, like our most recent story, that today we just dedicated a building on our campus, and it took 25 years for that building to come to fruition. And one of the things we did is at the end of the ceremony, we had the fire burning on campus. And we were able to tell the people just a couple of the stories. Like, for instance, the fire calls were sent to the man who took care of the flame at the Statue of Liberty. He worked there his entire life. He said he was saved in Vietnam, so he could go and take care of that flame. He was up there when the planes hit the towers, and he took our flame and put it in the flame of the Statue of Liberty. We hand-delivered the flames to President Jimmy Carter after his Sunday sermon in Georgia. There is just story after story after story. And the neat part is that that's what Dale said. It just connects us all. There is a person I want to share a little bit about that if you wanted to, you could make a connection there too. She was one of the fire carriers. When she would travel with her friend around the world, she would take the fire coals with her, and they would leave them and gift them to people. When she was in Australia, she was student teaching in New Zealand, but they got to go to Australia, and the Aboriginal people had a fire burning in front of the Capitol building. And they told them, you have to put your fires out. You cannot do that anymore. And the Aboriginal people, a man named Uncle Buzzicott, said, really? We're going to light this fire here. We've had our fires going for over 10,000 years. Who are you to tell us we can't do this? So the person that was there was our daughter, Molly. And she said, Dad, I had the fire coals with me. I put them next to the fire because I didn't want to be disrespectful. And I walked away and I said, well, you did the right thing. So about 15 years later, I would get calls about, Dan, they're on campus. Can they come over and see you? So an Aboriginal elder was on campus speaking, and he was a didgeridoo expert. So I got out of class, came to the fire, we met, we talked about it. We had him light the fire, right? He played didgeridoo for a while. And I said, I have a question for you. I have a picture from this newspaper article from like 1997. I said, would you by any chance know this elder named Uncle Buzzicott who was running this fire in protest against the government? He said, oh yeah, he's my cousin. I said, could you give him one of our t-shirts? He goes, for sure. So for us, that's how the magic happens. And there is another piece to the story I'd like to leave with you, that if you need something every month to rejuvenate yourself in the middle of the turmoil we're in now, physically, emotionally, environmentally, and spiritually, it comes from our daughter, Molly. In the middle of our son's wedding, her heart stopped. And it turns out it's a condition called long QT syndrome. But we got to spend 4 days with her in the hospital when they kept her in a kind of a sedated state. And during that time, our depth of conversation with her spiritually was profound. Here's what she left us with, and here's what I'd like to give to you tonight to carry with you. So our daughter Molly said something that to me was very profound that we can all carry. She said, be positive, be kind, be loving. That is the true heart of a warrior. Be positive, be kind, be loving. That is the true heart of a warrior. Well, her favorite teacher in high school was the principal, and they had a fire circle now at school, at the high school, which many schools now have. And she learned what happened, and she called us, and she said, Dan, our family celebrates our own family members who've passed over every full moon. From now on, Molly will be a permanent part of our family. And you have to understand, Molly, your daughter was my favorite student of all time. So we thought about that, and we share that here's a way you can honor your own relatives. Go out at the full moon, face each direction, and say out loud to move those molecules like my Ojibwe grandmother taught me. And just say, be positive, be kind, be loving. That's a true warrior. And just take a breath and go in. But every 30 days, when things are kind of closing in and you feel pressure, our daughter can help you. And we get calls and emails and photographs from people all over the world saying, thank you for what your daughter left. And when they take a picture, many times there's a little blue orb there. And we know that's Molly's spirit because it showed up so many times. So if she was here talking to you, she was a fire keeper. She was a fire carrier. Now she has other things to do. But that little mantra, be positive, be kind, be loving, that's what a true warrior is if we can share that tonight. And she took many trips to Ireland with us. And just like her mom, totally connected, cellularly, spiritually, physically.
It's a beautiful way to close for us, actually. Molly's words. I put them on the back of almost all of my paintings.
Yes.
You know. So,
could I share one word that
yeah.
key? Another story for another day. I was adopted by an elder on her island. She was a profound elder. A word she used to connect people at the end of the evening in our prayer circle was Nin Sigio Wewin. It's Ojibwe. Nin Sigio Wewin. And what it means is we are a family and we love each other, whether it's by screen, whether it's physically next to each other, whether it's in ceremony or with the fire.
Yeah.
So Nin Sigio Wewin. We are a family and we love each other. Miigwech.
Miigwech.
Well, I am speechless. And you know how rare that is. It doesn't happen often. But I just love you guys both so much. And I have had tears as we listened tonight, and tears as I listened to each of you. And this balance of the masculine feminine is so beautiful. And I'm so grateful for that. And I love that Molly's been with us and will continue to be with us. And, you know, the words that you gave us that she shared, the positive, kind, loving, I had some for you, Dan and Kathleen, that came to me while you were speaking. Sacred, peace, humility, love. Those 4 came in from the 4 directions as you were speaking. And I just am so honored to have been able to be here with you. I am grateful to Gail Crosmas for being the one to introduce me to Dan, and then Dan to take me into Kathleen, into your life. And it's just, there's nothing random, as you say. And as I'm listening to you both talk about all the places in the world, the Maoris and the trees and Bridget and all the different things and places, and the world shrank and became part of my heart and then expanded again and went out into the cosmos. And I'm so blessed and grateful to have been able to hear this with you. I have my painting, and I hope it will show.
Oh, no.
I don't remember if you've already shown this. This is my very, very, very most favorite by Kathleen. And Mother Gaia is what I call her. And she's my favorite. She goes with me and talks to me and reminds me of what really matters and why we are here now on the earth and what our responsibilities are. And Dan, I forgot to bring yours downstairs with me when I came down here, but I can honestly tell you, and this is the absolute truth, Dan has given me a gift that I have never received from anyone in my 75 years on this planet. Gave me elephant poop.
Yep.
And there we have it. So I want to thank you both. And that is hardly enough to encompass what you have given to me and to everyone else tonight. And I don't know how many people are listening live, but I know that this will never stop because we archive it. It's available to everyone. It can be shared on anybody's page, to anybody's friends, because that's the point of it, to get you and your heart and your love and your voices out as far as we can into the world so that it can circle and circle and circle and like the drumbeat never stop. So thank you for being here with us. And I just want to say that next week we're going to have 2 more that are going to come together. And I believe that you know them. One is John Pepin. He's an Omaha elder from the Omaha tribe in Nebraska. And the other one is our wonderful Gina Miranda, our Mayan day keeper. And they're coming together. And I think it's going to be a little different than you guys. It's going to be like firecrackers on the 4th of July. And so I want to make sure to invite everybody to join us for that. And again, aloha keakua kuleana.
Miigwech.
Miigwech. Honor.
Jody, it's yours now.
Yawa miigwech. It was wonderful to be invited to be the host of this program, Grandma Susan. I love you, and Grandma Gail, and it was an honor to meet both of you and have conversations with you, Dan and Kathleen, and I look forward to continuing our relationship. And to the elders and teachers who share their voices, continue to share our voices. We'll meet them next week and for the next 47 weeks, 47 Mondays. What was spoken here lives way beyond this moment. These teachings ripple forward. They awaken something ancient in us, something that remembers who we are and why we're here. And like Grandmother Susan said, the circle remains open. And like Dan says, the fire is still burning. We carry it now with humility, with courage, with love. So we invite you, tend the fire in your own heart. Listen for the voices of your elders, walk with the ancestors, and speak truth. Be gentle and return here when the time calls again. You can visit these teachings, follow the full 52-week journey on the Grandmother's Voice YouTube channel. Until next time, may your path be lit by the wisdom of the grandmothers and the grandfathers. And may you never forget that you are part of this story too.
Oh.
Yeah.